Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the webinar of how to unlock your child's superpower without investing more time than you're doing right now. If you stay till the end, you'll see I'm going to show you how your children can reach their full potential and how you can be the parent that you aspire to be. And all this without having to go through the guilt of not having spent hours and hours of quality time with your children. Just with the time you've got on your hands, but tweaking that a tiny little bit, okay? So now I'm guessing for a lot of you, this is probably not your first webinar. The first thing I want to mention is that if you've ever struggled as a parent or even felt inadequate in the past, it is not your fault. There's a lot of conflicting information out there, and it can be confusing. Many times, information overload can make you doubt your own parenting instincts. The photos on social media of those picture perfect moms can make you feel inadequate. And it's okay. I've been there too. If you've been concerned that you can't be that amazing parent you want to be because of your background, your time availability, your family circumstances, or working hours, anything really, I want to put those fears to rest. You can do this. You just need the right person to explain it to you. Now, there are a lot of coaches out there who would tell you that you need a lot of time, a certain education to be a good parent. But I'm here to tell you they're wrong. They have their own reasons for wanting you to think that. Well, in my experience, they want you to go back to their coaching calls because they're charging you by the hour. But trust me, it's not true. You can do it with what you've got. If you've ever doubted that there are people with Photoshopped images selling courses just to make themselves look better, well, you're probably right. They won't be able to attract crowds by being themselves. The difference with us is that we want to build a community, the thriving group. Our vision is to see children growing up to love themselves for who they are, and we care about your well-being. We want you to feel confident as parents. So that's what we're here for. I know you have a dream to see your child become strong, resilient, happy, and successful at every stage of their life. And in this webinar, I want to show you how you can make that happen. So my goal for this presentation is to help two kinds of parents. One with children under the age of 8, as their brains are still in a receptive state, and ones whose children are older than that, as they have to do things slightly differently. So my goal is to show you the only way, as it's scientifically proven, to unlock your child's superpower or potential, and how you can do this with the time you have. So I'm Nikita, a very happy mother, a wife, a trained teacher, an earliest professional who has studied child psychology, emotional intelligence, and NLP, a coach, and an entrepreneur. But why should you trust me to be your parenting coach? Now, besides my educational qualifications and research, the most important factor in my life is my experience. And not just as a parent, well, that too, you can't undermine the struggles of parenting, but my experience as a child. On one hand, it's all the life experiences that give you your confidence and experience. But now, as a parent, I've been through most of the parenting struggles, just as most of you here. I constantly felt guilty, wondering if I was spending enough time with my daughter. On the one hand, my gut feeling and my parents as well were telling me to do one thing. And on the other hand, I had information from so-called parenting gurus telling me to do the exact opposite. And I didn't really know what to do. And I made a mistake. I decided to follow the popular guidance. And one day, when I saw the scared face of my daughter crying and begging for help, I almost had a mental breakdown. Well, in retrospect, I call it an awakening moment. And that's when I decided that I had to stop blindly following these parenting tips that I was getting from these so-called experts. I don't know if any of you remember Joe Frost, the super nanny, and I was a big fan, and I realized later on, we'll talk about it, how what science says about it. Okay, not my opinion, but what science says. Anyway, to my rescue was my PhD mentor, who I'm still working with. He didn't give me any advice, but he pointed me to the right research and the books. That helped me reflect upon my childhood as well. And that's where my parenting philosophy was born. Now, I have worked with thousands of families all over the world. I have worked in schools in Ukraine, Sri Lanka, Japan, India, America, Romania, and France. And I've traveled a lot as well. And I've always wondered why people are so same, yet so different. I mean, have you ever wondered that what is it that makes some people more successful, more confident, healthier, and happier in general? Because all parents want the best for their children, don't they? Then why is it that only a few have their happily ever after? Is it because they're lucky? Or is it because they have some kind of a secret superpower that enables them to do everything? You're probably thinking it's because they've got the best schools or the best universities, right? But we've seen people like Thomas Edison, Benjamin Franklin, Bill Gates, Albert Einstein, John D. Rockefeller, Walt Disney, Richard Branson, and many others do well in life in spite of being school dropouts. So what is their superpower? What is this superpower? And have you ever wondered if your child has that superpower? Now, Paulo Coelho said children believe they are capable of everything. But if that is true, then why do we see so many self-doubting and even self-sabotaging adults? Well, Coelho was right. Children do believe that they are capable of everything until they are taught not to believe in themselves, until they are programmed to believe that they are powerless. So how do we ensure that we are not programming our children to lose their superpowers? Well, that's what we'll cover today. The aim of today's webinar is to understand what are children's superpowers, why is it important for parents to foster them, and how can we parents foster these superpowers? So, what are our children's superpowers? Superpowers refers to any quality that enables an individual to become successful and happy. But mind you, by success, we do not mean passing a major exam, gaining a qualification, or landing a certain job, or attaining a particular position or title in life. Success is defined as accomplishment of any aim or purpose. And it could be literally anything. For a 2-year-old, it could be potty training. And that's the aim or goal for that 2-year-old at that point in time. And accomplishing that is success. So, superpower would be the qualities that empower our children to accomplish their aims. Here is an indicative list of qualities that empower us to be happy and successful in life. Now, in today's webinar, we will cover a few in detail. We can't go through all, unfortunately. So let's look at a selected few. Self-awareness, self-efficacy. It's not self-confidence, okay? Self-efficacy comes later. Self-efficacy is believing in yourself. Resilience, the ability to bounce back. Positive attitudes, and social skills. Now, why these? These are nitpicked from several books, really. But let's take an example. Say you want to start your own business. Now, statistics shows that 9 out of every 10 startups fail. So how do you bounce back from failure? How do you deal with all the negativity and still continue to believe in yourself? Now, that's why you need these superpowers, right? So, how do children acquire these superpowers? Do we have to teach them? If that is so, then would parents' education matter? Now, let's look at how children really acquire these superpowers. Let's look at this baby, okay, who is learning to stand up unaided. Oops. Okay, she's trying. Oh, there we go. And again, oops. Nope. Oh, almost. Oh, there she did it. Now, isn't it a really good example of a superpower? The baby believes in herself, and that's why she keeps trying. She falls multiple times, but she doesn't give up. She keeps trying again and yet again. That's self-efficacy and resilience right there. But how many of us do that? Let alone failing and then getting back up. We don't even try at times just with the fear of failure. So why don't we believe in ourselves at times, right? So are we all resilient? No, are we? So how many of you believe that this is one lucky baby who's born with resilience and self-efficacy? And it's just this baby, okay? And she's going to be the lucky one when she grows up to be the confident leader who has it all. Or is it that all babies are like her? Now, I'm inclined to believe that all babies are like her, because if it wasn't the case, then we would have seen a lot of people at dinner parties crawling in. Let me introduce you to my boyfriend, Tom. And there he comes, crawling in. Has that ever happened to you? Never happened to me. So which means all babies are born with these superpowers, resilience, grit, and self-efficacy, just to name a few. Because they all learn to do this. It's quite a difficult task. They fall and they get back up, they fall and they get back up. So they have that resilience, don't they? But if all babies have it, how come all adults aren't like that? Which means somehow, while growing up, they lose these superpowers, right? So Paulo Coelho was right. Children do believe that they are capable of everything until they are taught all the shoulds, the musts, and the cannots. So luckily, our work here is simple because we don't have to start from scratch. We don't have to teach our children these superpowers. They do have them already. We just have to foster them. Ensure that through our words and actions, our children don't lose these superpowers. So now that we know what these superpowers are, let's look at why is it important for parents to foster them, or rather, how not to suck them out of your children. So why is it important for parents to foster these superpowers? What happens if we don't actively make that effort? Can children not relearn them as they grow up? To answer this question, let's look at a concept called mind programming. Mind programming is something that happens naturally during early childhood. And the programs or the beliefs that we parents instill in our children, especially during the first 8 years, become their life script. Their success or failure, large or small, will depend on this programming. And do you know the power of this programming? It controls 90 to 95% of everything we do. So if it affects 95% of everything we do for our entire lifespan, don't you think those early years and those programs are really important? Now, if your children are over the age of 8, it's still not too late. We can always support them to reinstall the right programs. At 8 or 80, it's never too late. But definitely, the earlier you start, the easier it is. And you need to start if you want to make that difference. In this short webinar, I won't go through the details of mind programming, but let's look at some examples of what parents can do to foster these superpowers. So, how can parents foster their children's superpowers? Firstly, what helps is for parents to understand how your child's brain is developing. Understanding children's brain development enables us to understand the stages of development. So we can support them by providing them with the right kind of learning experiences. And it also enables us to have realistic expectations of our children. Now, let me know if you have troubles with the sound. Otherwise, I'll try and kind of summarize everything, okay? So this is how a child's brain develops. So this is how a brain develops. It develops from the bottom up. The brainstem is the first one to develop, and it's responsible for basic survival function. It develops from birth to 8 months. Sorry, it develops pre-birth and up to 8 months. Here is the cerebellum, which is the motor center of our brains. And it develops from birth to 2 years. And this is why babies are unable to hold their neck, crawl, walk, jump, or do any of those things at birth, but they eventually learn these skills at about 2, right? Now here's the limbic system, which is the emotional center, and it develops from about birth to 4 years. So that's why we don't see babies having a temper tantrum. So it's about 1 to 4 years. And that's why we hear parents of toddlers saying, oh, he was fine, but now suddenly he's got a mind of his own. This is the neocortex, which is the last one to develop. And it develops between the ages of 3 to 6 years. So that's why infants are not capable of thinking logically. Okay. The brain continues to develop up to the age of 26 years, and it changes all the time. Our brains are plastic, okay? So once you understand how the brain develops, as we saw, it develops bottom up. The first is the brainstem, cerebellum, then the limbic system, and then the cortex, okay? Now, allow me to share an example with you. I get asked by parents of toddlers a lot. My child constantly has temper tantrums, and I know he's doing it on purpose to push my buttons. But now we've seen that toddlers don't have the ability just yet to be manipulative, let alone malicious. So that's a higher order thinking, which is not yet developed in toddlers. We saw the neocortex, the cortical region develops between the age of 3 and 6. So a toddler does not have that capability or the capacity to be malicious. Now, they're just overwhelmed. When toddlers throw a tantrum, they're just overwhelmed by their emotions and don't know how to manage them. They need help from an adult to self-regulate, and the adult can do this by co-regulating with them. Now, unfortunately, I do not have enough time in this webinar to discuss self-regulation and co-regulation, but that is a very important aspect for parents to understand. And that is by far the most important factor in determining the well-being of any child, or rather any individual. Now, we understand how children are processing the information from environment and what is going on in mind and body, and we can address the cause instead of simply working with the for parents. An important thing to remember is our children are in a highly receptive state of mind. No wonder they believe in anything and everything you tell them. I mean, ever thought, why do children believe in Santa Claus? Because they don't have the ability to question, well, how can a grown man fit through a chimney? And if he has magical powers, why does he climb down through a chimney? Ever thought about that? So they believe everything they're told. And if you constantly say to a child, oh, you're so stupid, sadly, that's what they will grow up believing. And now you see why they might end up becoming self-doubting and even self-sabotaging as adults. This was a testimony given by a mom to me when she followed the program and she realized how the brain development actually happens in a child. And she could empathize and relate to her child much better. So that's why, in my opinion, understanding child development or brain development is extremely important. Okay, let's move on. So once we understand the basics of child development, we move to step 2. Let's see what we parents can do proactively to foster their superpower. Self-awareness. Now, we haven't got the time to discuss all the strategies for teaching children emotional literacy, but it is recognized that it is never too early to start teaching emotional literacy to our children. And what does that do? We want our children to be able to recognize their needs and wants and respect those needs and wants. We want them to love themselves for who they are. And we want our children to do this because they wish to do so and not because they want to please someone or rebel against someone. We want our children to have intrinsic needs and not do things because they want to seek approval of others to be happy in life. I can give you loads of examples for each of those points on how the way we speak to our children in the most loving ways, okay, not angrily, no yelling, and how we turn them into people pleasers. Take the example of 8-year-old Ben, who gets full marks on his math test. Or let's take example of 3-year-old Olivia, who eats her tomatoes for the first time. What do we say? Oh, well done, Ben. Mommy is so proud of you. Olivia, well done. I'm so happy you ate your tomatoes. Now, how does that translate in little Ben or Olivia's head? When I do this, it makes mommy happy. Has anyone cared about how little Ben is feeling? Or how is Olivia feeling? We just assume they're happy too. Now consider this statement. Wow, Ben, I see you finished your math homework. How does that make you feel? Do you feel like you've learned a lot? Now, what does this convey to Ben? My feelings matter. Ben might say, yeah, it was hard, but I think I've learned a lot. You might say, you must be proud of yourself, Ben, because I sure am. There's no harm in telling children that you're proud of them, but don't make it all about yourself. As a teacher, I see this in schools too all the time. Imagine a reception class, children who are 4 and 5-year-olds. They have finished playing and now it's time for a group activity. So the teacher tells the class to tidy up. Some children start tidying up, but some others are still playing. Now, as teachers, we have been instructed not to use negatives and not to tell children off. Instead, we are asked to catch them being good and praise them. So instead of saying, Tom, Bob, can you please start tidying up? We don't do that. Okay, so the teacher says, oh, I really like the way Hannah is tidying up over there. Now what does happen? What happens? Other children who want praise too quickly start picking up the toys and putting them away in boxes and go, Miss, look at me over here. And then the teacher goes, oh, well done, Bob. Why did we do this? Do we treat adults like this? No, right? Imagine in your staff room, someone is constantly late. Would you say in a full staff room, oh, I really like Mr. Brown. He's always on time, hoping that the latecomer would take a hint from that? No, we don't do that. So why do we do this to our children? What did we just do to Bob over there? We've created a people pleaser. I have done several postgraduate degrees, and when I studied Froebelian philosophy, for those who don't know Froebel, Friedrich Froebel was a German educational philosopher who invented the term kindergarten, and he believed in children. He believed in children being independent and responsible. So he wanted to give children responsibilities. Now, kindergarten literally means garden for children. Garten is garden, and kinder means children in German. He gave each child a small plot of land, and they were expected to maintain their own piece of land. They were obviously shown what to do. They took responsibility and pride in maintaining that piece of land. Children should not be manipulated or tricked into doing things. They need to be treated with respect so they learn to respect themselves. Okay, we'll look at more practical tips later, but this is the philosophy that supports the idea. Now let's look at self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is the belief that I can. Here's a beautiful quote by Peggy O'Mara. The way we talk to our children becomes their inner voice. Now, I came across this concept in a rather shocking manner. When I was at university, after finishing our final exams, I had been out with my gang of girls for a night out to celebrate. We went club hopping, went from one club to another. Some of us were quite drunk. And at about 4 a.m., when we decided to return to our university dorms, we got there and we realized that some of us had forgotten to pick up our coats from the cloakroom. Our keys were in our coat pockets. Now, which club, which cloakroom? No idea. So we decided, we figured out we were locked outside our own apartment. So my instant reaction was, boy, that was a fun night. We girls got to do that again. But hang on, first, we need to figure out how do we get in? I saw my friends frantically searching through their pockets and shouting, "Oh, I'm so stupid. I can't believe I did this. My parents are right. I shouldn't be drinking." Another one continued, "Yeah, serves me right for being drunk. I deserve to sleep in the streets now." And I was shocked. I said to my friends, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, how can you say that?" To that, one of them replied, "Well, I didn't call you stupid. I called myself stupid. Why are you overreacting?" And I thought, but that's even worse. How can you call yourself stupid? Now, if you believe you're stupid, how will you ever trust yourself to accomplish anything? No wonder they were fixated on the problem, while my approach was, well, now we've got to figure out how do we get in. And that's the power of self-efficacy, the belief. How many of us here blame ourselves when things go wrong? Oh, I'm stupid. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. And what does that do to us? Okay, let's move on. So, what do we want for our children? To have strong and positive inner voice, the script of I can, not I can't. Looking up at what if, knowing that they have options. And it takes consciousness on our part to be able to do that. There are lots of ways of doing this, but let's take one for example, okay? In this example, Emma has forgotten to tidy up her room. In the first example, the name calling, her mom says, "Oh, you're so lazy, Emma. You never tidy up. Clean your room now." In the second example, the positive one, the mom calmly says, "You're a responsible girl, Emma. This is so unlike you. Someone could trip over and hurt themselves. Do you need a hand tidying up?" Now, in both cases, the outcome in the short term is the same. You get Emma to tidy up her room. But in the long run, what is Emma learning? In the first scenario, her subconscious mind is getting programmed that she's a lazy girl. In the second scenario, she's been programmed to believe that she's a responsible person. In the future, that girl will be more confident and more likely to take up responsibility, believing in herself as someone who is responsible. She won't shy away from responsibilities. Now, there's a lot more going on there, but for this example, I suppose you get the point. Resilience. Resilience is your ability to bounce back from failure. It enables us to learn the lesson, but not let it stop us from trying again. Now, we want our children to look at the failure in a way that, well, okay, I've discovered that won't work. I need to keep trying until I discover what will work. So how do we do that as parents? As parents, we need to be modeling resilience to our children. We need to be reframing situations for them, looking at the backstory of others and their own, building on their success so they can see that they have the magic formula, celebrating both success and failure. Okay, as we have already seen from the previous video of the baby trying to stand up, we know our children are born resilient. In the program, we will also look at what we parents can do that changes everything. Another superpower we have is positive attitude. Now look at this picture. We can all say that this is what helps us to see the glass half full rather than glass half empty. I'll tell you a recent story, and you will see how almost the entire world focuses on the glass half empty, and that's what our children focus on too. Now, during the peak of the pandemic, I remember on 16th of September, after listening to the news on TV, we called my parents who are based in India. We were obviously concerned about them. My husband, who is a scientist working with the vaccine production, asked my mom, "How are things there?" My mom's response, "Oh, everything is great. For a change, I'm enjoying working from home. I miss my colleagues though, but it's good I don't have to commute." My husband looked at me and asked her again, "How can you say things are great? We heard you have almost 100,000 new cases a day." My mom's response, "Well, that's true, but look at the death rate." Now here's the death rate. She explained, around 1,000 people are dying every day. So if 100,000 are getting diagnosed, then 99,000 are recovering every day. Yes, it's sad that those 1,000 are dying, but 99,000 are recovering, which means there is hope. That's when I realized we all see graphs like this every day in the news, but no one ever talks about the recovery rate. Where is the hope for us? I'm not saying that we ignore the death rate, or in other words, the problem, but we need to focus on the solution as well. Just being able to reframe the solution. And a positive attitude enables to do that. We want our children to have this, an attitude of gratitude. We want them to be able to reframe the situation and look at it from a different angle too. Be solution focused rather than being problem focused. And to find the right solution, they need to be able to ask the right questions. And and that will need them to have a positive attitude and a can-do spirit as well. And from cognitive behavioral sciences, we know that our thoughts influence our behaviors and actions. So we want our children to have positive thoughts. And as per law of attraction, our thoughts become a self-fulfilling prophecy. As they say, what we nurture will grow. So the question is, do you want to nurture negative thoughts or positive thoughts? I believe all benevolent parents here would want their children to have positive thoughts. And we cannot overemphasize the importance of social skills. We want our children to show empathy, communicate effectively, make and maintain friends, have healthy relationships, mutually respectful relationships, become good leaders who lead themselves as well as others. So, how do we achieve this? A child who's treated respectfully at home by his parents, when he steps out and someone treats him disrespectfully, he will know not to tolerate that. But if a child is used to being mocked and disrespected, he's going to set his bar really low. We all want our children to have leadership qualities, but as parents, what do we do at home to encourage that? There's lots of things we can do as parents to encourage this, but let me leave you with one thought. Do you allow your children to make decisions? Do you involve them in decision making? If yes, how? If no, then how do you expect them to learn to take ownership? Okay, let me summarize what we've discussed today. We looked at what are superpowers. Superpowers are qualities that enable us to be successful and happy. Qualities we looked at today were self-awareness, self-efficacy, resilience, positive attitude, and social skills. How do children acquire these superpowers? We have seen that children are born with these superpowers, but over the years, they're instilled with self-limiting beliefs, and that's how they lose their superpowers. Why is it important for parents to foster them? Because children's minds are very receptive, and the beliefs that we instill in them become their life script. And lastly, how can parents foster these superpowers? Luckily, parents don't have to start from scratch. Done right most of the time. And mind you, you don't have to get it right all the time, most of the time. These superpowers will develop in our children. So, we looked at 6 steps in which parents can help. Well, step 1 is really about understanding child development. Step 2 is self awareness, teaching our children to recognize and respect their needs and desires. Step 3 is self efficacy, positive programming of our children's subconscious. I believe I can. That's the life script we want them to have. Step 4 is building resilience through modeling it and building on success. Step 5 is positive attitudes, reframing the situation and expressing gratitude. Step 6 is creating opportunities for change to develop their social skills. Sorry, I know I haven't covered all the steps in detail, but it's impossible to pack 10 hours of content in 1 hour. But remember, great parenting happens when you start controlling yourself and stop controlling your child. What I couldn't cover today, but what I shall cover in detail during the program is What are your child's superpowers? Why do they matter? How do they develop these superpowers? How can you nurture your child's developing brain? How can you raise strong, resilient, and positive children? How can you teach your children to fight their fears? And underpinning all this is a secured attachment, which we will discuss at length. We didn't cover that today, but that's kind of the most important thing. The program is full of practical tips to make your parenting journey fun and fulfilling. Let's not rob our children of their confidence. Now, do you think this would work for you? Let me ask you one question. How many of you are excited about what we just talked about? And how many of you are feeling a little overwhelmed because we've covered too much? It's okay. If it's okay with you, I will spend 10 minutes going over a very special offer that we have created to help you unlock your child's superpower and become the parent you aspire to be. Here's what you're going to get. The Parenting Masterclass, which is 8 live sessions so you can interact with me. Now, most coaches charge roughly £250 for live coaching sessions. This is not pre-recorded. So for 8 sessions, we're talking of a value of £2,000. Then you'll have a toolkit. These are my personal notes that I created by compiling all my PhD research notes and at least 20 to 30 different parenting books. If you just got to buy the books, let alone your time and effort, it will not cost you anything less than £200. You get the course book to keep a track of what you're doing, so you don't have to frantically take notes of everything I say during the session. And this itself is well researched, and just the course book is worth £25. You get daily nuggets sent to your phone for 8 weeks of the program, because we all have those, I can't do this moments. So you'll have your daily dose of motivation, and that's worth £75. You get annual membership of the Thriving Group, so you can get help from a closed community. Because we know there are times when we all feel helpless because of external factors. The grandparents are spoiling my kids. My husband doesn't understand. So you will have a support group. And the value of that membership is $199. And only for people who register before Sunday, you'll get a special bonus video that will comprise of the key takeaway from all 8 sessions. So if you ever want to go back to something, you don't have to pay us again. You have it all at your disposal. And that's just priceless. Now, most people won't do this because they want your repeat custom. But we believe in the cause. We're not here to rip you off. So the total value of this course is $2,499. But because you've invested your time today, we know you people are serious. So you will get all of this for just a fraction. When I was first trying to figure out the stuff as a young parent, I didn't know how to do it. So I registered for a PhD, and it's still going on. And what I'm learning is mind-blowing. So I want other parents to benefit from it. I took a pause when I was doing my research to study other philosophical aspects. Altogether, my degree and all the courses put together have cost me well over £10,000 and over 10 years of research. But I don't want you to have to recreate the wheel. So I'm offering you this package. Sounds good? When you use these strategies, not only you'll save yourself time and money that I have spent to develop it, but you'll also save what could be months or years of wasted time and money because you will get it right the first time. There's no trial and error period. Just think about what the end result could be like. Your child developing a secure relationship with you, empowering them to become a strong, resilient, and happy in life, and enabling you to be content and confident in your parenting journey. Now, you probably see why people pay thousands of pounds for similar results, because it's not a cost, it's an investment in the present and future of your child. So you're going to get all of this, that is worth 2,499 for just 249 pounds. But remember, the bonus video is only if you sign up to the course before Sunday. We are starting the course from Tuesday, 23rd February, and it will run for 8 weeks. I hope you all can see yourself enjoying your parenting journey and supporting your children in achieving their full potential. So thank you for coming today, and thank you for your time.